Okay, good day. So this video will cover the part two of our chapter 7 discussion, which will be on amortization. So let's start. So if you can recall from the last video that we had, amortization, in amortization, our aim is for something to be nothing. Meaning we have it, our aim here is the extinguishment of a debt. Extinguishment of a debt through periodic payments. Periodic payments. So in comparison to sinking fund, in sinking fund kasi is that your periodic payments are not paid directly to your liability, but they are set aside so that for when the maturity of your liability comes, the maturity date of your liability comes, you'll have enough funds to pay for the lump sum. Now in amortization, um, your liability is extinguished or paid off in periodic payments through periodic payments. So let's recall our example for sinking fund. What was that? Okay. So here's the thing. Okay, so hmm, okay, tapos in order not to be burdened, you have required so 5 million pesos. Okay. So if this is the case, no, let's just compare this case to amortization. This is not amortization per se, but this is interest paid periodically. So it's amortization table, which is not actually an amortization table, but it's a payment of interest table will look differently from amortization table. So let's construct our payment of interest table muna for this problem. Okay, so this is not part of the problem. Okay. So construct the interest payment schedule. So this is period, and then we'll have. Oh, by the way, let me turn off muna my camera para dili sila mag-ilaw sa signal. I'm so sorry about that. Okay. 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 Very good. And then outstanding principal. Okay. Then interest due. Interest to interest payment. Standing principal. And uh, okay. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. But our standing principal is 5 million pesos. So our interest due is again based on the our interest due is based on the beginning balance of your liability per period. So that's 0.10. So that's 500,000. How much did you pay? You paid a exactly 500,000 as well. Nope, nope, nope. Okay, 500,000 as well. Now, what is the portion of principal reduced by payment? Malamang it's none because your liability for interest is 500 and you paid 500, exactly 500. So meaning there is zero amount that is applicable for your principal. So with that, from your beginning, you less nothing from it because wala man kay kanang you paid the exact amount of interest, not more than it, not less than it, because if na less, kung less than the interest payment due, mas mo dako ang imong utang, di ba? Kung mas dako ang imong gibayad sa imong interest due, then supposedly mas magamay imong principal nga basis for the next period. So supposedly magamay imong interest due. Pero since you paid the interest that is you paid the exact amount for the interest due, then your outstanding principal at the end of the period will still be the same. Muna siya nga for the 5 years nga kanang outstanding ang imong utang, your utang is still at 500 is still at 5 million pesos. However, if you decided nga instead of just paying for the interest annually, then in a sense you have a gross savings in your interest, because here if you would total your interest here, your interest due total to 2.5 million, which is that's half of your liability. Now, what if you decided to pay it? So, okay, of 10%. Okay, you and your creditor agreed that the liability will be paid in 5 equal installments. How much should you pay at the end of every year, end of each of the 5 years? Each of 5 years to extinguish the liability at its maturity. Maturity date. Okay. To be paid in 5 years. Okay. You and your creditor agreed to the liability in 5 equal installments. So you pay at the end of each of the 5 years extinguish level at its maturity date. Okay. So for ano for in this case, this is a, 'di ba, we have something and then it becomes, our goal is for something to be nothing. So this talks about present value of ordinary annuity, or this could also be a case for present value of annuity due. Now let's focus muna our solving for the payment when the problems in when the problem is like this, which is at the end of each of the 5 years. So let's insert a formula. So there we'll concentrate on PVOA first. PVOA is equal to payment, and then you multiply that by what's our formula? That's 1 less 1 plus I raised, sorry, I got script. So this one, that's 1 plus I raised to the power of negative n all over I. So this is our formula for PVOA. Now we know already our present value. We know our present liability, but we don't know how much we should pay annually so that our liability will be extinguished at the end of 5 years. So our unknown is payment. So with that, we will transfer um, this expression to the other side. So since this is multiplication, now it will become division, or it will become a denominator to PVOA. So our next equation would look like this. Okay. So payment is unknown, so that would be payment is equal to sign go by this. That's PVOA, or present value of ordinary annuity, and then another fraction, which is our 1 less 1 plus I raised to the power of script. Okay, so that's 1, okay, I'm sorry, 1 plus I raised to the power of negative n, okay, over I. And which is, for this equation, we could also express it in this manner. Again, just like what we did sa ato ang sinking fund. So, we invert this portion. So, that will become PVOA and then multiplied by that's invert the denominator. So, it will now become I over 1 less 1 plus I. 1 plus I raised to the power of negative n. Okay. Now, what will happen if our what do you call this one? If the problem involves annuity due. So, using the same equation, but now it becomes present value of annuity due. So, for that, we'll change this into annuity due. And you simply have to add another expression here, which is times 1 plus I. So by adding 1 plus I to our formula, it now becomes what we call this one, annuity, present value of annuity due. So on this part, um, just simply add 1 plus I on the lower part of the formula. And 1 plus I. And it now becomes annuity due. So for this, which in this case, this can also be expressed like this. Okay, okay, there we go. There we go. Okay, this can also be expressed as, so again, multiplication of fraction. So we can transfer this times 1 plus I to the numerator. We have to add a bracket here. Okay, so with that, from this expression, we can then do what we did here, wherein we inverted the denominator. So we can just copy this one, paste it here. Here na lang para makabulot ng how we inverted it. And then put this in a bracket, and then just add 1 plus I, and there you have it. This will be our formula for amortization, amortization payment for ordinary annuity, and then for this is annuity due. I'm sorry. So here, amortization, is amortization. Okay. Now let's go to our problem. Okay, so let's just copy this. Copy our headers. Okay. Now, but before we go there, let's solve muna for this problem. So what if our our for this problem, no? So how much is our payment? Our payment. Our outstanding liability is 5 million pesos. Oh, so that's here. Okay. So our I is 0.10. And we also have 0.10 here. And our N is 5. Okay. So with that in mind, we can now solve for our payment, which is 5 million, 123 multiplied by 0.10, and we divide this by 1 less 1 plus 0.10 raised to the power of -5. Okay. Okay, so our annual payment now should be 1318987. Now, I'm gonna check this using my calculator, and I hope that you do as well. Let's just confirm the validity of the one that I have inputted through our Excel. Okay, yeah, it's correct. It's correct. Now, what if instead of end of each year, what if the payments will be made at the beginning of each year? So we'll just have to copy this one. Wait a minute. Same with this formula. Copy this formula, and we simply have to add a bracket here. Bracket, and then we add a multiply by 1 plus 0.10. Okay, so same here. So we simply have to add here times 1 plus 0.10. Okay, so the annual payments now becomes uh 1,199,079.46, and I'm also checking that using my calculator, and it's correct. Okay, so now from this from this amount that we have gotten through our formula, let us check if the amounts are correct by building an amortization schedule. Amortization schedule, tapos PVOA muna tayo. Let's start with PVOA. Okay. So periods is 5 years. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, outstanding principal beginnings, of course, that's 5 million. Interest due would be based on uh, our beginning balance, which is 5 million, and then you multiply that by the 10% interest. Okay. And then our payment is, what is our payment? 1,318,987.40. Okay, so this should be our payment for 5 years. And then our portion of principal reduced by payment is this one less our interest due. So this is the reduction in our principal. So our outstanding principal end is this 5 million. We deduct this portion of principal reduced by payment. Okay, so now our outstanding principal end will now become our beginning principal at the start of the next period, and the process would continue. So this one, we multiply our outstanding principal balance at the beginning of the period by 10%, and then our portion of principal reduced by payment is simply our payment, and then we deduct our interest due. Okay, so that's 900, and then our outstanding principal. Okay, okay. Now, so we copy this all throughout the 5-year period, and then same with this one. So here we reduce our payment here to account for the rounding off. Okay, 42. Okay, sige. Now, guys, before we continue, as you can see, guys, in amortization, our payment is constant, and malamang no, our payment is constant, and our outstanding principal is decreasing, but our interest due is decreasing as well. While on the other hand, our portion of principal reduced by payment is increasing. Why is that? Because you constantly pay the same amount for 5 years, but the interest portion of this amount decreases throughout the 5 years. Thus, the amount that is applicable for the principal will now increase. Okay? Until the balance, so your assigning principal reaches 0. Now, for our sinking fund naman, let's see what behavior we can see here. So, our interest income, of course, it will always increase. And our periodic increase in the fund will also increase. Our periodic deposit in the fund is constant. And I think that's just it. So more likely than not, for sinking fund, everything except for the periodic deposit, which is constant, everything is increasing. However, on our amortization, it's not the case. Like payment is constant, principal and interest due will continue to decrease, and while on the other hand, our portion of principal reduced by payment will continue to increase. Okay. Now, after solving for this one, let's go to the table for our um, present value of annuity due. So what will happen if present value of annuity due ang ato ang question? So know that for annuity due, naa siya'y kanang tawag ani our outstanding principal here is already reduced by our first payment. So si payment ato ni siyang i-transfer daan diri sa kilid, no? Si payment kana siya, and then our outstanding principal beginning is control Z. Okay. Payment. This is our outstanding principal beginning before payment. Then we copy this. This is after payment. Okay. Okay. So our payment, so for the first year, so let's delete this muna. For the first year, our balance is 5 million, but our payment is 119,007.46. So that's 1119, I think. 119. 079. Okay, so this should be constant for 5 years. Okay, so and then our outstanding principal beginning after payment is this one minus this one. Okay, And with that, this will now be our basis for our interest. The outstanding principal, beginning principal after payment. Multiply that by 0.10. So this is your interest due now. And then portion of principal reduced by payment is, of course, this one. And then we deduct this one. So outstanding principal balance and is this one. So here will be the same. Our ending here will be our beginning in the next period. And then we deduct again our payment. And then our interest due should be based on this balance after payment. And our portion of principal reduced by payment is, of course, your payment less the interest portion. And your outstanding principal end should be the balance previously. Oh, no, not that one anymore. Oh, sorry. So our outstanding principal end should be not this one, but this one. The outstanding principal after payment. Wait lang. It's not this one. Something's off. Okay, payment the ano. Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. Sige. And then, payment. Mm-hmm. This is not it. Minute, something's off. It should have been different there. Payment. Standing principal and yeah, it will be different for our handwritten Jew. Okay, so yeah, let's just do our amortization for annuity due this way. We will no longer have this portion, but we will have our standing principal. Yeah, I think this is more accurate. Okay, sige. So again, let's recap. So our liability is 5,500. Then we paid in at the very start this amount 119907.46. So thus our outstanding principal beginning after payment is this amount on from which our interest is based on. Now our remember that at the end of the period this interest na due is not paid. Kaya 'di ba? Pagka next period pa man ang payment. So with that, your new outstanding principal would be the outstanding principal at the beginning, and then you add now your interest due. Oh my god. So this is your outstanding principal at year end. And then so your beginning balance by next period is this one, from which you deduct Ala. From which you deduct your payment at the beginning of the period, and then that amount will again earn interest of 10%. So since it's not paid at the end of the period, because your payments again are made at the beginning of each period, then you have to add now your interest due. So this is your balance at the end of the second year. So next one is this is your balance, and then you deduct now your payment, and then the interest due is 10%, and then your outstanding principal now would be this one plus the interest. Okay, so we just repeat the process here until year 5. Okay, so we adjust now our payment by 1 centavo. Okay, sige. So as you can see here, tawag nito, no matter what method you have used, whether it is ordinary annuity or annuity due, your balances at the end of each of the 5 years are still the same, right? It's just meron lang mga discrepancy siguro na 1 centavo per year. Okay? But that's just very minimal. Now, however, your interest due, which is your interest expense for this, for ordinary annuity, is actually uh, greater as compared when it's annuity due. Because you have your interest due for ordinary annuity, you'll be paying for 5 years. However, for annuity due, you'll only be needing to pay parang 4 periods lang. Okay? While on the other hand, your payment naman for ordinary annuity is higher as compared also to your payments for your annuity due. Now, if you want to know how much interest you have paid for the 5 years based on your standing principal, so you can simply now just deduct from your total payments the amount of your beginning liability. So the amount will be equal to your total interest due. Same as here. So from the total payment, so gross payments, you deduct your principal, you'll get your interest for the whole life of your liability. Okay. So now, usually, why do we teach you the tables or the amortization schedule or amortization when we have already taught you the formula for present value of annuity due or present value of ordinary annuity? Now, this is very important because in some problems, you will be asked as to how much is the outstanding balance of a liability at the beginning or at the end of the period. Okay, so if the question is how much is the balance of your liability, for example, at year three, let's go to year three. So we will be using this formula, no? This one, using this formula. Okay, and then so for example, at year one, at year one, year one. Okay, so for this, you simply have to substitute. You simply now have to compute, no, at the end of year one. At end of year one. End of year one. So at the end of year one, how many payments have you missed? At the end of year one, how many payments have you missed? Now if you missed, or how many payments is yet to be made. So if you have made payments already for 1 year, meaning you still have to pay for 4 more years. So you simply have to solve for the present value of the remaining payments. So in this case, for year one, no, so PVO8, our payment is how much? Is that 1318 and it's 7.40, and then you multiply that by our I is 0.10, our N is how much? N is 10, so I is 0.10. Okay, so what is its value? Ano lang data. Okay, so if you would compute this is 1318.987.40, and then we multiply that by less 1.10. Okay. Oh. 1 less 1.10, we less our out, and we erase this to negative, what? Negative by 10. That's 4. 4 na siya, guys. I'll edit that later. Okay, and then we divide this by 10. I think that's just it. Okay. So, meaning our present value daw kuno at the end, or our remaining liability. Oh, did they not? What's wrong here? Oh, this is not 1.8. This is 1. Okay, so as you can see here, guys, at the end of year 1, the balance of our liability daw should be 4181012.58. So that's actually like the same if we didn't round off our payments a while ago. But since we did, that's why there is some discrepancy. So if the question is at the end of year 4, you'll just have to repeat the process. And the thing is that for your PVOA, only compute for the remaining unpaid period, which is for 4 years, 1 period na lang. So at the end of year 4. So your balance should be, so since isa na lang ang kulang, so yun siya, negative 1. Okay, so 1,199,04,779.45. So na lang siya discrepancy, ginagmay. Okay. Now, pag ang pangutana po dayon niya kay what is the interest expense? Interest expense, no? So kung interest expense naman, tapos like for example, interest expense kanang interest expense on ato na lang sa ning kompletuhon ang ato ang kuandi balance of liability 1 2 3 4 para mas paspas. Okay, this is at the end of year 2. This is year 3. Okay, sorry. So since this is year 2, so dapat minus 3. This is since year 3, this is minus 2. Kaya again, kung pilang ang unpaid periods. So with that here, minus 3. This one, it's minus 2. Check it if it's correct. So balance at the end of year 2, 3,280, 126. And then a balance at the end of year 3, that is 2,289,151.50. Okay. Now, what if the question is interest expense? So what is the interest, for example, interest expense at year 1? At year 1. Okay. At year 1. So, simple lang na siya, no? So, pila day among balance at the beginning of year 1. Wait for a while, guys. Okay. Okay, so I'm back. So, for your interest expense naman, first is you have to determine kung pila man ang balance niya before, like at the beginning of the year. So for your year one, it's simple because your interest expense is simply your original capital balance, since this is ordinary annuity and the payments are made at the very end. So meaning ang basis sa imuhang interest expense is simply just the balance at the very beginning, which is imuhang capital. Kaya wala man siya nakuha ng initial payments. You multiply that by the 10%. So that's 500,000. While on your year two, for example, let's at year two. So for year two naman, no, for year two, ang imuhang basis would be the balance at the end of year one. That's your balance for your that's your basis for your interest. I'm sorry, that's your basis for your interest expense. So for that, you get your present value of remaining payments at the end of year one, which is this one. And then you simply multiply that by 10%. So at year three, you do the same. So since year three ang pangutana, get the balance of year two and then multiply by 10%. For year four, again, get the balance at year three and then multiply that by 10%. And for year five, just for the sake of completing it, so you get the balance at year four and multiply it by 10%. So if you would check the table, so that's 500,000 now, 500,000, 500,000. And then we have 418,101, 418,101. And then year three, 328,012, 328,012. And then for year four, that's 228,915. So that's 228,915. And lastly, for year five, that's 119,907. Okay. So with that, we're done with what if interest expense ang pangutana. Now, what if the question is portion of interest, portion of principal paid. Okay, so for portion of principal paid, so at year one, simple. So at year one, simply get the it's 5 million. 5 million, and then you simply deduct from it the present value at the end of year one. So that's okay. Minus this one. Our present value at the end of year one. And this 5. Let's just input here 5 million. Hindi ko magsintat. Okay, no? So at year 1, 5 million, you deduct from it the present value that you have gotten at the end of year 1. Year 2, so actually you can reestablish the values in the table just by simply using the formula, no? So again, 5 million, and then you deduct from it the PVOA year 2, so year 3, same, 5 million minus year 3, present value, and then year 4, it's 5 million, then you deduct the present value you have gotten for year 4. Okay, so let's check our portion of principal paid at year 4, no? So here, if you would look at it sa tuang table, so imong i-add, kung imo nang i-add tanan taman year 4, so this is equals 3,800, 920. This is 3,800, 920. Okay? So that's how you tapos kung may input ka nga of the total payments, for example, total how much interest was paid for the first 4 years. So pag ingani gali ang question na how much interest was paid for the first like whatever period. So this is the thing. Um, you you compute for the portion of the principal paid. So that is, for example, so this is gross total payments less portion of principal paid. Okay. Now for year four, our gross total payments is that's how much do we pay each year? We paid 1,318,987. So 1,318,987.40. Okay. It's here. Where are we? 1,318,987.40. And then we deduct from it the portion of principal paid as of year 4. And we know that nga kani siya ang ato ang portion of principal paid at year 4, which we got by deducting from the 5 million the present value at year 4. Okay, this one. So with that, we deduct the multiply this pala by 4 because it's 4 years na ang nahuman. Then we deduct from this portion our portion of principal paid as of year 4. So this is our total payments that went to interest. So how do we check that? So here in our table, so it was sum. So we add our interest due 1475029, 1475029. Okay, so that's how you solve for the items in the table nga kanang what do you call this one? Kanang without needing to construct the table itself. So through formula siya. Now, ang kuan na yun is ang question is kung unsa ang mahitabo if a present value of annuity due ang given values, no? So since kung mag-balance of liability lang ta, balance of your liability, formula lang gyapon ta nga at the end of the first year. First year. Okay. So at the end of the first year, no, actually, we will still be at the end of year one. Yun ang first year. Oh, okay. And okay. We will now for this naman we will be using this formula, no? The balance of liability will be using this formula. So for at end of first year, let's see here. Now our just copy this. Okay. So our payment for kung kuan siya, kung annuity due, it's 1,199,079.46 and then 1 plus 0.10 raised to the power of negative n. That's so pila ka buok years pa ang kulang? That's 4 years. And then again 5 minus 1 4 naman. And then here 1 plus 0.10. Okay. So with that, our at the end of year one, our value is that is 1,199,079.46, and we multiply that by our table. So that's one less table, our table factor. So raised to the power of -4. Again, our period here should be the remaining payments nga yet to be paid or the unpaid periods ato nga to ang tanawan. So since nakabayad naman ka sa year 1, so meaning 4 payments lang yung kulang. Okay? So -4. And then we divide from that 0.10 and then we multiply again. 1 plus 0.10. Okay. So as you can see here, it's the same. Okay. Sige. If you want to check it here po, the similar sila balances here. Okay. Despite having different payments. Why? Because here, this is annuity due. We made our payments at the beginning of each period, not at the end. Okay? So at the end of year 2, let's just copy and paste this. So year 2, year 3, year 4. At the end of year 2. So year 2 man, so we edit this. So 5 minus 2, that's 3 periods remaining. Oh, sorry. 3 periods remaining. Same with here. 3 periods. We'll end up 320, 126.9. So, na lang siya discrepancies nga 0.01 or 0.02 sometimes. But don't mind that. Okay? So, at the end of year 3, so 2 periods na lang ang nabilin. Okay, and then, same with here, 2 periods. Okay. 2289151. Last 12, but at the end of year 4. Mm, 4. So, meaning kung year 4, meaning isa na lang katuig ang nabilin. Okay. Same with here. So, year 4 months, so -1 na lang. Okay. 1199079.46. Okay. Now, what if pag interest expense ang pangutana? Now, kung interest expense ang pangutana, we have now to compute first for the balance of our liability at the beginning of the period. Kanikay at the beginning. At the beginning of year 1. Okay. So, actually, for this, we will be, for year 1, lahi siyang formula. This would be just your liability or principal less payment. Okay? So, principal less payment lang siya kang beginning of year 1. So, which is, in this case, this is 5 million. Less na to itong payment na 1199. So that 079. 0.46. So this is our principal at the this is our balance at the beginning of year 1 after payment. Okay, take note na this is after payment. So let's go to kung si period 2 na dayon, period 2. Ang yada yung kuan is yung formula is principal, I believe, balance year and balance at prior year end prior year end, or ending balance of prior period, huh? Ending balance of prior period, and then you less your payment. Okay? So, on this case, so our, for example, for beginning of year two, so this is our balance of prior period is malamang our year-end balance at year one, and then we deduct our 1199.079.46, which is our payment. Okay, so at the beginning of year two, formula is the same, so the amount would be, sige na lang. Year 3 na dapat nyo, no? Class 1, 199,079.46. This is year 3. This is year 3 as well. Then lastly, ano pa day? 4. Beginning of year 4. So that's yung balance at year 3 na end minus 1, 199, 079.46. Okay? And then ang balance at year at the beginning of year 5 is simply this one. Balance at the end of year 4, and then we deduct our 1,199,079.56. So malamang at beginning of year 5, kanang wala na siya'y balance because at the beginning of year 5, fully paid naman na rin mo hang utang. Okay, so as you can see here guys, at the beginning of year 5, so at the beginning of the year, so muna ang balances 38920.54. Oh, what is this? What kind of sorcery is this? Ay, bakit kasi point? Okay, sorry. Ayan, 298, what number is that? 298.1 and 3.14, so nalagyan pa discrepancies. At the beginning of year 3, o yung ano man eh, dapat dili ka, so dapat balance at year 2 ka, dili ka kuan. Okay, 2081, again, at the beginning of year 4, this one, beginning of year 5, 0. So, ang ato na yung interest expense, or interest expense would be based on our beginning balances at the beginning of the period. So that one, for year 1, that's 1. For year 2, this is 1. For year 3, for year 4, and for year 5, which is equal to here. So 380, 298, 208, 109, 007 is this column, the interest due. What else? So from there's expense for the portion of the portion of the principal paid or portion of payments nga niadto kang principal o kang interest, the process is still the same. Okay, process is still the same. So let's just say here portion of principal paid, portion of principal paid. So it's still original principal, and then you deduct the PVAD at the period question. For example, for year 1, that would be, let's just put the 5 million here. Okay. So for year 1, it would be 5 million, and then we'll less our kanang amount our ending balance at year one. So this is for year one. This is for year two. Ooh. For year one, this is for year two. Oh, joke. Oh, what is this? Should be the same. Ah, okay, sorry. Ah, mhm. That one. Ooh, why is it like that? Ah, okay. Finally. Okay, this is for year two. This is for year three. Happened here. Oh, sorry. Year three. This is for year four. And malamang. For year five, that's 5 million. No, no. Pero mo naman, that's fully paid. Okay. So this is the how do you check if sakto ni? So let's just go to year 4, 318 and 20.54. So it's simple, no? Sa ato ang kanang ato ang outstanding kanang what do you call this one? Kung pila sa pila ang portion, so sa principal ang nabayaran, 5 billion, and then we less our outstanding principal at year end. So that's 318 and 20, 318 and 20. Okay. Now for the portion of payments, portion of payments going to interest or amount of interest paid for that particular period. So at year one, so ang formula ni mo ano would be gross payments less portion of principal paid. Principal paid. Okay, so for this one, our gross payment for year one is 1199. How much is that? 1199079. Oh, 079.46. There we go. Let me just put this here for another guide for the payments. Okay, so for year one, it's just one of this less the portion of principal paid. So this is the amount of interest paid for year one. For year two naman, it's this. You multiply that by 2 and you less this. Amount of the portion of principal paid. Year 3, you multiply this one by 3. Then you less this one. For year 4, you multiply this by 4. And then you less. Okay, so if you can see, if you want to correct, if you want to check, for example, on year 3, what's the total interest due? So in year 3, for interest paid, 886,390. 886,390. Okay? Sige. So what else do we need to discuss on amortization? Oh, sige. On this last one, what if like magsabot ang kanang, so instead, like, for example here, let's just focus our heads on PVOA. So let's copy muna table for PVOA. By the way, yeah, I think that's just it naman siguro, no? Amortization. Oh yeah, I already discussed that. Okay. So what if dili siya equal payments? I mean, like, ang last na payment is dili equal sa rest of them. So what if daw instead of just 1.3, ingon ang imuhang moingon ang imuhang creditor nga um, pay me 1.5 million every year, and then for the last payment na less than na nga one and then for the last payment uh kanang merge less na rin siya sa 1.5. So for example here, so 1.5 million. Okay? So 1.5 Okay. So pila man dayon ako ang how much dayon ako ang how much man dayon dapat ang ako ang final payment para ma-zero akong outstanding liability. Now, akong final payment dayon would be our outstanding principal beginning, and then we will add the interest due. Okay? Aray ko. We will now then add our interest due. Okay, so with that, mag-zero din mo principal. So meaning, kung kanang kaninga scheme ang inyong gisabutan, the final payment will be 394,900, which includes 35,900 for the interest and 359,000 for the outstanding principal. Okay, I just thought of something before I proceed here. Uh, I forgot na noon. Yeah, tara. By the way, guys, when it comes to amortization po bitaw, it's the essence of amortization para kung like you can solve it this way manggod pod ang kaning sa iyahang table, no? There is an alternative for this one para makuha niyo ang iyang outstanding principal. Alternative solution. Because like the sa atong outstanding principal, it's like this one minus this one. So we can just simply do this, no? Ang yang outstanding principal, you add the interest due and you deduct the payment that should be equal to the outstanding principal end. Okay, so that's just an alternative solution. If you forget the table, you can just have 4 columns. Okay. Anyhow, let's continue. So ayun. So sir, pag ani sir nga naagipangayo sa amo ang last payment, will we be able to solve the last payment through formula? Okay, let's try. I'll try. Okay, I'll try. Okay, so for example, the question is, ang first question kay, how many years will it take for the debt to be extinguished? So, 3 palanggaan, kabalo na tanga is 5 years because it took it 5 payments. So, 5 years. Can we do it by, or like, tapos, how much should the last payment be? Okay, so we know that it's 394,900. And then, napanan sila follow-up question din nga, of the last payment, how much will go to the principal and how much will go to the interest? So for the principal, it's 359,000, and for the interest due, or for the interest, is 35,900. Now, could we solve these two questions? Payments, we can, could we solve for these questions without or like balance at year 3? So year 3. Could we solve this? This is how much to? 1690. Could we solve these questions without what do you call this one? Without without solving for the table? Now, for the first question, no, nga, how many years will it take for the liability to be extinguished? We will be using a trial and error method. Mhm. So we'll use this formula. This one. So we will use trial and error method. And from here, uh, from this formula, let's mag-try na yung taog kanang substitute nga. Ang payment is 1,500 plus 500 plus 1.10. Okay, so our n is, we don't know that, and then 0.10. Okay, so let's try, like for example, 3. Okay, so what is your PVOA kung 3 periods lang siya? Tas 1.5. Okay, PVOA. Ilan man siya? Kung 3. That's 1,500. Let's use this. Saan to? Saan to? Hmm, Year 3, yeah. So instead of this one, I'm gonna use 1,500. Okay. So, kulang siya. So, meaning, I have to increase my number of years. So, let's go to 4. 4. 4. So, meaning, ay, utang. Ay, wait lang. Negative 3. This one, negative 3. Tapos, kung negative 4. Ay, sorry. Ay, sorry. Okay. Present value of payments. Okay. Let me see if my table is correct muna guys. Interest due 500. Mm-hmm. Tapos payment. Ano yan? Okay. Tama naman po. Tama naman siya. So, 500. Tama, no? Dili man din na siya mo. Tama. Hmm. That one. So, this is not our way dapat dahil. So, let me trying to find the right formula guys eh. So this one for our number of years, trial and error siya, but our formula should be this one. Nga dili siya ma-zero ang kani siya. Hmm, FV of PVOA at n periods is payment times 3. Ano ba? Dili gapon siya no? Decreasing mo good siya. Okay. Mhm. Hmm. How do we solve it? How do we solve it? How do we, hmm, because no, like, it's kind well, let's just try this now. See now. Payment times 3. That's, payment times n. Kaya nga, dili siya mahimong 0. Okay, so, at 3, so, 3 years. So, our FVOA would be, so, our PV of n pairs, so that would be like 5. Then we multiply this by our fraction. And that is correct. Let's just try this. Let's go crazy. So that this is 1 plus I raised to the power of, how much is that? Negative, negative. 3 years man. This one over, and this is 1 plus 0.10. Then we did this payment constraint. Not sure. I'm gonna go to my calculator and try to input this so I could be faster. 3 minus 1.10 plus 1 times 3. Hindi ko siya masubukan. No, it's not it. Wait lang. Very wrong. 1.0. Minus 1. Mhm. Ay, my nose. Let's try lang. Let's try. Let's go crazy. Then multiply this by the some simple compound amount. Plus, design. Plus, I'm not sure if this will be true to all. 1 plus I, but let's check the validity of this later. I'm gonna create a longer problem. 1 plus I raised to the power of 3 minus the, okay, so this is like, here 3, it'd be like FV of a compound amount. Lagi, FV of PVO at n periods minus FVOA of payment at n periods. Okay. How sure am I? So this is like 1 million daw ni siya. 1,690. And how about at year 3? Hindi ba? 3 Then we copy all of this, paste it here. Then we start with year 4. Year 4. Okay, so year 4, we change these things to 4 and then 4. Okay. Oh, it's valid. Yeah, yeah, actually. What is that? Uh, uh, okay. Ilang. I'm so amazing. Never thought that it's actually the correct formula though. Now, so if you would like see here, guys. Huh. So you see this formula, no? What you got here, what we will be getting here actually is the value, the ending value of your liability at the exact period. So for example, at year 3, the value is 1690. At year 4, the value is 359. So with that, we can solve the values through this equation. So for the second question dayon nga, so at year 4 ana. So if you would go at year if you would continue to year 5, if you would continue to year 5, go to year 5, continue to year 5, you will get, guys, I'm no longer inputting it through my Excel ha, I'm inputting it through my calculator na since I'm showing naman na to you the formula. So this is negative na siya. Negative 1,105 100. Okay? So with that, meaning there will be, okay, this is the balance man. So there will be 5 payments because at kung at kung nagka at year 4, napaka-balance ka to 5 na. But if you fully pay on year 5, go 1.5 gapon, then you'll have a negative balance. So with that, we now know that there will be 1,500 payments, but the last payment will be is still unknown. Now, for the second question, how much should the last payment be? Now we know that the principal is 359,000. So we know that the principal is 359,000, and this is the principal component. So our interest component then would be 10% of this one. So principal, we multiply that by 10%. This is the interest component. So the gross payment dayon would be, the gross payment at year 5 would be this one. 394,900, which is naadiri sa ito ang kuan. Naadiri sa itong table as shown here. For our balance at year 3, yeah, we got it through this formula. So this is like balance. Muna siya itong formula ha for this one. Oh, okay. At least I discovered something. Anyhow, so let me save this muna. Baka kasi mawala. Save as. Now, so ayun. Um, so kung sakto ba ang ako ang pagkakuan, so I believe so. Yeah, this should be our formula for this one, for these types of question. Now, how about let's try if this unsa ang formula dayon niya. If what do you call this one? If the problem is that of an unwetted Jew, no? So what if the problem is that of an unwetted Jew? Let's see if we can still, make use of the formula I was able to create or discover na lang. Okay. So this is for unwetted Jew and the payment is instead of 1199 is 1200. Or to be fair, 1300 na lang. So pila ka payments iyahang need. Okay, sorry. Mhm. For payment. Okay. So ano siya? Okay. So let us see na kung unwitting ba siya, can we still answer these questions? Kaning tulo ka buok. Will we be able to answer these questions? How many years will it take for the debt to be extinguished? So ay kaning 1-3 guys sa kaning 1-5, this is given by the problem. Okay nga murag equal ang first few years, ang last year lang din ang kulang. So murag siya ang magbayad sa salin. So 5 years and then the last payment will be 683,870. Haman ang kanang tawag ani oy. Now, if you would ask me dayon nga kanang kung ang principal ani o sa interest. So, principal ani, interest muna. Interest for this one is the interest nga unpaid last year, which is 6170. So, ang applied ani to principal is ang net. Ana lang. So, this will be, or this one, this is the principal, unpaid principal and the unpaid interest na balances. Now, let's see if we can make use of this formula. Balance at year 3. I'm not sure kung unsa ang makuha nga kuan niya ani, but let's try nga kani ang makuha. Okay? So, let's try to make use of this formula. Okay? But instead of FV of so future value or compound amount of unlimited due at end periods, tapos ilas nato ang FD-AD of payment at end periods. So with that, we know that, let's make use of this at year 3. Year 3. So let's make use of this again. Constant gyapon na siya, no? Constant gyapon na to ang kaning sa 5 million times 1 plus 1.10. Wala mo change there. Diri lang siya nga part mag-change. Okay? So this is 1,300 man daw to ang payment times 3 and then we'll just have to add another 1 plus I times 1 plus I. Okay, so try to input that on your calculators. Let's see if you will get the desirable answer. 1 times 1.10 raised to the power of 3. And then we deduct 1 and 10 raised to the power of 3 times 1.10 times 1. Don't think so. So the balance down here is 191,700. I hope you got the same answer as I did. Oh, it is. Okay, let's try year 4. Try year 4. Sorry. Try year 4. So year 4. over here. Okay, and put the same values. You just have to change those exponents from 3 to 4. Okay, let's see here. Answer here is 683, 700. 870 pala. 683, 870. Okay, that's the balance at year 4. So here pa lang, at parang dito pa lang, alam mo na you'll be paying for exact 1.3 and then may fifth payment ka which is a lesser number. So alam mo ng 5 years talaga yung number of years mo or yung end mo. And then so 5. So still a trial and error but at least we can actually solve it, 'di ba? So 68370 ba 'yun? Okay. Now, what if pag 5? Then here you will realize na on the 5th, kung ang anong year ka magna-negative, yun yung number of periods mo. Okay? So, yun, negative ko na dito, negative 677, 743. So, with that, alam natin na there will be 5 payments. The last one will be 683,870. And for that, you just simply, para naman ma-solve mo yung the 863,870 is your gross payment na ito. Okay, so this is your gross is 683,870. Now, how will you solve for the interest and the principal portion? For this naman, for annuity due, is you have to get your principal, you have to divide this, the gross amount, by 1 plus I. So divide this by 1 plus I. Oh, sorry. Divided by 1 plus I. Okay? And then, sorry. Sorry. Plus I is 0.10. Okay? So you'll get the principal. And then for your interest naman, it's just simply this and then multiply this by 0.10. Okay, by the I. So we still got the correct answers. Okay. So I think that's just it for our chapter 7. I hope that you have learned something because right today I did. I was able to discover something new and hopefully that this would help you in answering our exams in the future. And if ever that you will have any questions regarding sinking fund or amortization, please do not hesitate to contact me on Messenger or on our classroom or any platform that you know. I'll be sure to hopefully I'll be able to answer them. And the best way for me to get on them would be if you would ask me in our messenger group chat. Okay, so again, thank you guys for listening to me today, and hopefully that you have learned something, and see you in the next video for our next chapter discussion. Bye.